Most of you are treating your brain like a sieve in a rainstorm. You stand out there for hours letting lectures, podcasts, and textbooks pour over you, but the information just slips through the mesh and disappears. By the next morning, you're left holding nothing but damp metal and a sense of wasted time. You're here to learn how to remember everything, and I'm going to show you that by fundamentally changing how you interact with information. In the next few minutes, we are going to talk about how to move from being a passive observer to an active owner of knowledge. By the end of this video, you'll have a system that makes information stick to your ribs instead of sliding off your brain. To become an active owner of knowledge, you have to stop treating your brain like a passive recording device and start treating it like a high-performance tool. The first step from being a frustrated forgetter to a master of memory starts with understanding the echo chamber of the mind. Imagine you're shouting into a vast canyon. If you yell once and walk away, the sound vanishes. But if you wait for the echo to return before you shout again, you've created a loop. Most students shout into the canyon and immediately start scrolling on their phones. They never wait for the echo. The pain of losing information usually comes from a lack of reflection. You think that because you read it, you know it. This is a trap. Memory is built on self-generation. Instead of looking at your textbook for the 10th time, you need to force your brain to produce the answer from your 9th reading without any hints. It is the art of pulling info out from your brain so it creates a permanent path. The harder it is to pull that information out of your head, the more permanent it becomes. This is not scary, it is a relief. It's like a physical workout for your neurons. My brain has about as much storage as a toaster oven, so if I can make this work, you're going to be a genius. But even the strongest mental muscles won't save you if your brain decides the information isn't worth keeping. To make your knowledge permanent, you have to learn how to outsmart the selective filter. Your brain is a master at deleting garbage. If it didn't, you'd remember every license plate you saw on the road. To keep information, you have to convince your brain that it's a matter of survival. This is the narrative hook. We don't remember facts, we remember stories. If you're trying to learn the laws of thermodynamics, don't look at them as dry equations. Turn them into a drama. Imagine the particles as angry neighbors fighting over a fence. Give them personalities, motives, and conflicts. High-level mastery is turning every boring concept into a vivid, slightly ridiculous movie in your head. It feels silly to imagine atoms having an argument. But the payoff is that while everyone else is sweating over a multiple-choice question, you're just recalling a scene from your mental short film. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, I'll show you how to use a mental bookmark to never lose your place in a complex topic again. Once you've convinced your brain that the information is important, you need a place to store it where it won't just drift away. This requires moving from isolated facts to a web of meaning through the power of association. Think of your existing knowledge like a giant sticky wall. New information is a tennis ball. If you just throw a plain tennis ball at the wall, it bounces off and rolls under the couch. To make it stick, you have to wrap it in strong glue. This is relational learning. Every time you learn something new, you must ask, what does this remind me of? Maybe a chemistry bond reminds you of a specific friendship, or a historical revolution reminds you of a plot twist in a video game. You are manually sticking the new ball to the wall. By the way, if you're enjoying these mental hacks, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up as it helps with the algorithm. Now back to the sticky wall. Manually sticking balls to the wall is like building a web of memory. The more connections you make, the harder it is for any single piece of information to fall out. You aren't just memorizing, you're integrating. Connecting new facts to old ones builds the web, but making that web indestructible requires a jolt of energy. To ensure memory never fades, you have to press it into your mind using the emotional stamp. Why do you remember your first heartbreak or a terrifying roller coaster ride with perfect clarity? Because your brain uses emotional tagging to prioritize memories. Information that carries an emotional charge gets moved to the long-term vault instantly. The problem is that a lecture on supply and demand isn't exactly a roller coaster. You have to manufacture the emotion. Be genuinely curious. Find a reason to care. If you can make yourself laugh at a concept or even get slightly annoyed by it, you stamped it with an emotion. Humor is the ultimate shortcut here. I once remembered a complex geology principle only because I turned it into a terrible pun about a penguin with a red hat. It was dumb, but it worked. You don't need a high IQ, you really don't. You just need a sense of humor and a bit of creativity to make your brain pay attention. Even with an emotional connection, a complex idea can still feel like a tangled mess if you don't understand how it's built. To truly own a subject, you have to stop memorizing the surface and master the first principle breakdown. Most people try to memorize the what, but they ignore the how. They try to memorize the branches of a tree without looking at the trunk. This is a recipe for confusion. To remember forever, you need to use foundational reconstruction. Whenever you hit a wall, strip the concept down to its bare bones. What is the one thing that must be true for this to work? If you understand the core logic, you don't have to memorize the details. You can simply reinvent them on the spot. This feels slower at first. It feels like you're falling behind. But this is the easiest way to making your concepts sit on a throne. While others are panic memorizing 50 different formulas, you only know one core truth that allows you to derive all 50. The action is simple. Stop trying to remember and start trying to solve. Mastering the core logic is exhausting, and there comes a point where your brain simply cannot take in another bite of data. To turn that intense study session into long-term mastery, you have to trigger the mental reboot. You cannot keep pouring water into a glass that is already full. Your brain needs white space to process and solidify what you've just taken in. This is the incubation period. The best studying often happens when you aren't studying at all. It happens while you're washing dishes, taking a walk, playing with your dog, or staring at a wall. This is when your brain moves the information from the waiting room to the memory chamber. In other words, it happens when you walk away. If you cram for 4 hours straight, you're just making a mess. If you study for 50 minutes and then do something mindless for 10, you're giving your brain the save button it needs. It turns the marathon of learning into a series of manageable, high-impact intervals. When you step back and allow your mind to process these deep insights, you cease to be someone who just knows things. You evolve into the master builder of your own intellectual future. To remember forever, you have to change your identity. You aren't a student, you're an architect of your own mind. You use self-generation to build the structure. You use narrative hooks to give it life. You use relational learning to tie it all together and emotional tagging to make it stand the test of time. When you do this, the sieve becomes a solid vessel. You'll find that you stop worrying about forgetting because the information has become a part of who you are. You'll feel calmer, sharper, and ready to tackle any challenge because you finally trust your own mind. Today's small win. Earlier, I mentioned a mental bookmark that prevents you from losing your place in a complex topic. So today's small win is the end of session summary. Before you close your laptop or book, grab a scrap of paper and write down the 3 most important things you learned, but do it entirely from memory. This acts as a bookmark that stays in your brain overnight, making it 50% easier to pick up where you left off tomorrow. If this gave you clarity today, let me know in the comments. I go through each comment and it helps me create more videos that can benefit you. If you watch me, you'll feel calmer, clearer, and more in control. Like and subscribe for more tools to help your brain work with you, not against you. Don't miss my next video, carefully crafted to dive deeper into these and many more concepts. It'll take your results to the next level in no time. Thanks for watching.